Naveed Shah is a U.S. Army veteran and the political director of Common Defense. It's a grassroots veterans organization. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. Sir, thank you very much indeed for being with us. There's been a lot of speculation over the last few days or so about what the motivation and the targets, or particularly the ultimate strategy for the Trump administration is with regard to this action in Iran. But I want to talk to you about what impact, if any, that has on the troops that are there who are actually carrying out the fight. How important is it that they understand what the motivation for this action is?
It's very important that the troops have a strong understanding of why they're there. And thanks for having me this morning. You know, when it comes to the Iraq conflict, the Bush administration spent a year making a case for why it's important for us to invade Iraq. In this case, what they've done is simply decided one day to start this bombing campaign alongside Israel, made no case to the American people, made no case to the troops, and the support for this conflict is falling. What little support there was is falling rapidly right now.
I see that you served in Iraq, and I think it was 2009 to 2010. You traveled from Mosul to Baghdad. Of course, with hindsight, we now understand that the Bush administration's motivations for moving into Iraq at that point were based on a false premise. What does that tell you about what we're seeing in Iran at the moment? How concerned are you that we could be getting into a similar situation?
I'm very concerned that we're getting into a very similar situation right now. You know, again, the idea that Iran was an imminent threat to the United States is wrong. Like they had no intention. The idea that Iran's nuclear program was a threat to anyone when they claimed we just destroyed it during Operation Midnight Hammer a few months ago. How could it continue to be a threat if it was destroyed? None of the evidence that they are putting forward makes any sense. It seems like this was a unilateral or bilateral decision between Israel and the United States, between Trump and Netanyahu, and it really does not add up. And the people in the region are the ones who are suffering, both American troops as well as the civilians that are caught in the crossfire.
If the U.S. and Israel have multiple objectives in Iran, all broadly with the same priority, at this stage, none seems to be more important than the other. How difficult does that make it for commanders on the ground who are trying to strategize what they are being instructed by their political leaders?
It makes it really difficult for commanders on the ground to both defend their troops, defend their positions, and plan for the next phase when it's not clear what phase one was supposed to be. If the goal in Iran was regime change, how are we going to accomplish that? Simply by bombing the Ayatollah's compound, and then what? What was supposed to happen next? There is no plan, no contingency for day two, let alone phase two of this assault.
I mentioned the political director of Common Defense. It's a grassroots veterans organization, as we were describing it. Looking at the servicemen and women who are currently working in this theater, how concerned are you that at least some of them are going to come back with the same level of impact that you saw in the Iraq War?
We're very concerned that the troops that are serving right now are going to be negatively impacted by this war. In fact, we've already seen that, similar to Iraq in 2003, 2004, the early stage of the Iraq invasion, troops went in without the proper equipment, without the proper armor, without the proper gear, and they lost their lives as a consequence. And now we saw that a temporary operations center in Kuwait was struck, where 6 U.S. troops were killed. And again, it didn't have the proper fortifications that are needed to defend themselves from this barrage. It seems like, Iraq all over again, and I'm very concerned that we didn't learn any lessons from the past 20 years.
We appreciate you bringing us the benefit of your expertise in this. Naveed Shah, so thank you very much indeed.